afterwards. Okay, so one of the things that always kind of reminds me when I go to the conference is that we have got probably, well, without a shadow of a doubt, the best product in the world. And the reason I say that is I've worked for a number of companies, and we always used to say we've got the best product in the world. But one of the things that resonates with me is that the reason why we've got the best product is that we actually make videos about the people that supply the products and the produce to our products. Tell me a company in the world that actually does that. I can't think of any other company that does that. And, you know, we've got this whole kind of culture in terms of, as a culture within the company, of nurturing, of helping, of growing, giving. And I think that's one of the best things that we've got to when someone first comes to business. You know, it's that kind of family feel that we have within our business, but there's a structure and, you know, everything is there for us to take advantage of. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. The next thing that I think when I go and think about NMD was that it didn't just happen for myself and Michelle. You know, it's a bit like climbing a mountain. And, you know, when you get to the top of the mountain, you think, my God, that was hard work. I had to plan out how to do it. I had to have the right equipment. I had to have the right people around me to get to that top of that mountain. The problem was, I've been to the top of the mountain in corporate life, and it wasn't the place I wanted to be. It was a very lonely place. Yeah. And, you know, that's one of the things that I always remember. My old boss used to say to me, Gordon, there's an 80-20 rule. 80% of the knowledge that you get within a company, keep to yourself. Because, share with other people. 20% keep to yourself, because you never know if that person's going to take over your job. And that was the culture that I was actually brought up on. And it was like, wow. I mean, you know, what does that mean? Whereas with our culture within Juice Plus, we have to tell 100% of what we know to the people in our team to actually help us get to that top position. So climbing the mountain, when you get to the right mountain, you're only there because of the right people that you've had around you to get to that position. Do you agree with that?
Yeah.
And maybe sometimes, you know, oh, well, you know, it's a long way up there. I haven't quite made it. Don't worry about it. You know, I've got an NMD in my business that took 15 years to get to NMD. 15 years. And was he bothered when he got to NMD that it took him 15 years? No, he was excited about it. And he was glad he got to NMD. But, you know, there's a number of things I think as a kind of company and a culture to get to NMD, there's a few things that you've got to do. And maybe you want to take some notes on this. Mm-hmm. Howard, I hear you're cooking there, are you? That looks amazing.
I'm doing my lunch for tomorrow, mate.
So, I mean, you've heard this before, I'm sure. You've got to have belief. And you've got to have three types of belief. You've got a belief in the products, you've got a belief in the company, and the most important one, you've got a belief in yourself. Yeah? And I always remember when I first got involved, I remember going to a meeting in America. Oh, and it was Jeff Roberti, who's the #1 earner in Juice Plus. And he said, give me someone who's got a willingness to work, is teachable, and has got a burning desire to succeed. And that's the kind of person I'm looking for. And I think the thing about the burning desire and the teachable is so important. And that coachability, you know, I didn't know anything when I first came into the business. And I set upon myself to kind of really find out so much about who's the top leaders, who are the people that are actually doing it, and surrounded myself with those kind of people. They weren't going to be my friends in any way to start off with. I had to show them that I was interested in the knowledge that they had, and they were prepared to share that with me. So that coachability is so important. The next thing I think is so important is consistency. I see a lot of people come into the business and, you know, they want to succeed, they want to be successful. And I know, Aviva, we talked about this the other day. It's that consistency of effort that is going to actually see you through to National Marketing Director. And let me just tell you how the consistency of effort goes. You know, I was on a call with Bob Burdick the other day, and he's been in the business now 34 years. He's still saying the same thing he said to me when I first came in the business 28 years ago. He says, Gordon, Sue and I saw 260 people in the first 3 months in our business. We went to National Marketing Director in 4 months. We had 3 National Marketing Directors the first conference we went to, and I've never made the same mistake again. Because he had consistency, he did VMO that worked. And he just went out there and he actually shared the product, shared the business, and got people to events all the time. And I see people that come in to our program and, you know, they're not consistent. And it's that kind of up and down motion that you get with no consistency. If you're partly consistent, it's still not going to work. You know, doing Juice Plus once a week or twice a week is not going to make it there. And people say, oh, I did it an hour a day. Well, that's consistency. An hour a day, putting work into it is consistent. But doing 1 or 2 kind of times a week isn't consistent. And the momentum that you try and build up will not continue on. What Bob and Sue did was they built up this momentum with the 260 people that they saw, and they kept on just rolling that momentum out. And that's so important. The other thing I see with people coming in, and you know, they don't really understand it, is you've got to treat this like a business. It's not a hobby. You know, if you want to earn hobby income, then yeah, treat it like a hobby. And some people do come in just to have a social circle of friends, etc. But the biggest checks that we pay out as a company are between £100 and £200. So if you want to be in that bracket, right, if you want to go further than that, you have to treat this as a business, a proper business. That means you've got to set a vision board, you've got to set your goals, you've got to kind of find out what the income producing activities are, which, you know, sharing the product, sharing the business, selling events, and work on those every single day. So every time you put your hour a day, it's working on those 3 things: getting people to meetings, speaking to people, sharing the product with people. And I've seen that this month. I don't know if you've seen all the, it was a great little kind of idea. And I actually picked it up from someone else, of having that target to go for 50 customers in 1 month. Yeah. And we've all bought into the idea of doing that. But if we analyze out the people that have actually contributed to the actual program, it's a small cluster of people, isn't it? With 1 or 2 people doing a bigger cluster than all the rest. And, you know, Leslie, I know you've been up there, and I don't know how many total you've done now, but you've got to be up to 10, I would imagine. Is that right? 8?
Must be 8, yeah, about that.
And I think Marcel has gone bonkers, and he's got about 10 this month. So, you know, it's that kind of like, you know, really setting your focus and going out there and say, right, I'm going to do this, and I'm going to achieve what I need to achieve, and make that there. The other thing I think is very important is that our business is about people. Howard, could you just turn your kind of mic off, because you're making a bit of noise?
That's better.
Much better, rather than hear him cooking. The one thing that I think, and again I see this with a lot of people, is that our business is about relationships. And, you know, you've got to actually build the relationships, and that sometimes takes time with people. And again, Aviva, we talked about this. When you're on a social media kind of conversation with people, you're not going to get the same rapport that you would build with somebody that you know personally. So it takes time to build those relationships with people, but that's what really helps you along the way. I remember telling you about, climbing to the mountain, and the only reason you climb to that mountain is you've got the right people around you, and that's very important. And you've got to have this kind of mentality of the law of attraction. Someone out there is looking for you, I promise you. You've just got to put it out in the universe that they're out there. And, Leslie, we had that conversation about, you sponsoring somebody into the business. And look, your daughter came to you and actually said, I want to be sponsored. Wow. That's amazing. And if that isn't the law of attraction, I don't know what is. And, it really is as simple as that. And some people just don't get it. It's incredible in terms of that. And the interesting thing is you've got to build this strong foundation within your business. And sometimes the people that you bring in aren't the foundation that you really need to have. And you've just got to continue working until you find those right people. And that might take 1, 2, 3, 4 months, years to get those people on board. I remember the very first person that I brought into the business was an accountant friend of mine in Edinburgh. And I've actually he fell out of the program, but we had great times together. But he built a foundation for me to kind of continue to build my business. But here's the deal. He's coming to the dinner on the Saturday night in Edinburgh. And I'm so excited to see him again because I haven't seen him for, well, maybe 10 years, if that, maybe even longer than that. But he was the foundation that I started to build my business from. And, that's what you've got to find. You've got to find those big kind of foundation people within your own business. And,
why is he coming to the dinner? Do you think he wants back in?
No, I paid for him to come. No, does he want to come back in? I don't know. I mean, I think, at the end of the day, he's always very curious. As an accountant, he likes the kind of, he's an entrepreneur, that type of thing. So we'll see. But the interesting thing is, and he once said to me this, he said, I'm not very good at this business and all the rest of it. And he said, if you had the chance again, would you sponsor me? And I said, of course I would, Norman, of course I would. But sometimes you have to ask yourself, would you sponsor you in the business? Because a lot of people, they blame their upline or their downline because everything's not working. But really, you have to look in the mirror sometimes and say, am I somebody that's working? Am I somebody that's doing the right things? And that's quite an interesting one because, really, what you do every day will reflect on where you're going to be. Not immediately, maybe not even in a month, but maybe 2 months or 3 months, but maybe 6 months, 9 months, a year, 2 years down the line. And I can tell you that people that I sponsored in the business have actually kind of given me the fuel to actually develop my business onward ever since. And the same with Bob and Sue Burdick, that 260 people they saw. They got 26 customers, they got 5 distributors, and from those people, they built their business there afterwards. And that's the momentum that they've created, and you can do the same. And the greatest thing about our business, you can draw a line in the sand anytime you want, and you can start all over again. So what happened before is not necessarily going to happen again, and you can actually build that. And the key to that is you can write a name list anytime you want. You can get the piece of paper out, piece of pen out. You can do your, what does James call it, his drip list, where you've got that person you're speaking to all the time. You get your diary out, map in when you're going to kind of speak to people. Go online you know, do your online stuff, do your calls, do your social media, but keep some time to do offline stuff as well. You know, see people face to face. And I think it's that combination of all those things that that really get you there. And I mean, I'm going to finish because I could go on forever more about all these kind of things that go on. But I was at a meeting in Maidstone recently, and Simon Bowler, who's the Vice President of Sales for the whole of EMA in Europe and Asia markets, he actually said a couple of things in terms of what is it that makes an NMB as compared to anyone else. And I wrote a few notes down about that, because we've all got the same product, we've all got the same business. You know, we've all got the same time scale in many ways. We can design and define our time scale whenever it is. But what is it? It's that extra 10% that the person that gets to NMB puts into the business. Extra 10%, that's all it is. And if we look at the mentality that they have, it's always a positive mental attitude. And it's a catch me if you can. I always remember the very first person that I went to when I first came in the business. He said, Gordon, here's the mentality you've got to have. You're going to climb this mountain, okay? And you're either going to be at the top of the mountain or you're going to be dead at the bottom, but you're still pointing upwards. So whatever happens, you're going to get there at some stage, okay? And that's the mentality you have to have. And that's what Simon, you know, kind of said, really. And you've got to have that unshakable belief in the product, unshakable belief in the business in terms of the company. And, you know, listen, how many companies out there, 50 years in the business? And we had a PMD retreat recently, and I was speaking to Matthias, the country manager for the UK, and he said to me, we were talking about, you know, GDPR and how you've got to kind of, you know, send all this stuff to your customers and all the rest of it. And he said, Gordon, don't you realize that our business model is totally unique compared to network marketing companies? We don't deliver products to our distributors for them to distribute to customers and get paid for them, which other network marketing companies do. So they haven't had to go through the GDPR. We have a customer base that's 80 to 90% of our volume of independent customers that we've got to look after and adhere to, and given this GDPR kind of confidentiality. And that's why, you know, we've got to do all these kind of things. It's right. You know, 85 to 90% of our business, our customers don't even know there's a business behind it. So that's the amazing opportunity that we have, because even going through to your own customers and going back to them again, you know, sometimes they make your best distributors. And, you know, I know from my own purposes that people have come back to me 5, 6, 10, 15, 20 years, they've said, are you still doing this Juice Plus stuff? And things have happened in their own life, and either they're looking for something that they've had to take for their own health, or they're looking for a business opportunity because, you know, they've been made redundant again, something's happened in their life, they need extra, or they just sees a couple of posts on Facebook of something going on in my life that they would like to do themselves. So, you know, that whole thing there. The other thing that Simon said is that the big key is the you factor. Yeah, you being you, and it's you working on yourself every single day. And I'm sure Michelle, I remember, always speaks about this, that 85% of your time is income producing activities, you know, 10% of your time should be working on you. Now that could be reading a book, it could be doing a podcast, it could be listening to a tape in the car, anything, tape, I should say, a CD, could be anything, you know, show my age now. It could be anything that helps you develop yourself. And I know when I listen to something positive, I always feel better about it. I always feel better about myself. I come out of it feeling, yes, I've got something out of that. And that's the difference. So it's not a huge amount of difference. It's just a very small difference, 10% that you need to add into your whole daily life and all the rest of it. Any questions on all that?
Yeah, I have a question.
Go for it.
If I've got, a couple of yoga teachers sort of approaching me on LinkedIn, and one who I've met a few times that said, "Oh, I've noticed you started posting on LinkedIn and I love your posts," and they are Juice Plus based. What would you say to them about, approaching them with the business that just doesn't sound so cheesy and...
I would get to know them, Aviva. That would be where I would take them completely offline and say, if they were local to you, are they local to you?
Well, like I said, one of them I've met a few times.
Right.
She's within an hour of me. We go to sometimes the same trainings together. Yeah.
I mean, that's the kind of person that I would sit down and maybe, have a conversation along the lines of, "Oh, I'm glad you like my posts. That's really good. Let's have coffee and maybe discuss, what you like about them. How can I improve them? Is there something that maybe that you're, interested? I'd like to know more about you." And put it back onto her. Find out about her. The trouble is we're very quick as distributors to actually kind of talk about our products, our business. Let's find out about them first of all. And sometimes, Aviva, they might not be right, but if you take it then third party when you get to that situation and say, "Look, this may not be for you, but I'm looking for one or two people that you might know that might be interested in developing a secondary income alongside what they do, sharing the kind of gift of good health that we have in terms of our products, whatever it is that attracts her." But you need to find out what attracts her in the first place. So you need to turn the conversation around and seek first to understand before you're understood. That would be my message there.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Any other questions? H, you look as though you're doing something. Leslie, anything that you think that you would like to ask?
No, I don't think so.
Does it all make sense?
Yeah.
Good.
Yes, it's just about, like you say, consistency and badgering away what you're doing every day. And
yeah, and turning up. I talked to someone this week about you've got to turn up. You can't just go one day, "Oh, here I am, here I am, here I am," and then no more lives or posts or anything for another week. Because you're not going to be consistent with it.
No.
Yeah. But you're consistent. You're out there all the time. I see your posts. I see your stories. I like your stories, and it's great to see that.
I do. I try to post about 3 posts a day.
Yeah. Yeah. And you're using social media well, I think. But you're a combination of offline as well, aren't you?
Yeah. Yeah. I talk to people outside as well.
And also people are coming to you.
Yeah.
On a regular basis, which is great.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Well, listen, I hope that's been useful. I mean, that's taken us up now to just before 9 o'clock. Any other questions? And if not, we'll kind of cut off here. If you haven't already given me your menu choices for Edinburgh, I would love to hear those. I think you have, Aviva.
I have.
Yeah, yeah. And Howard has, I think, as well. And Leslie, any further to making a decision if you're coming?
Not sure yet.
Oh, Leslie, that's better than I'm not coming.
Leslie, just say yes and then figure it out afterwards. Huh?
That's the main
man
one.
says. Just say yes and then figure it out.
Okay.
No pressure. No pressure.
Would you come with your husband, Leslie?
Yeah, but it's going to cost a fortune if we both come. That's the thing.
Would you come with just you?
I'm not sure.
Why would it cost a fortune?
Well, to have a hotel room.
Airbnb, you get one really cheap in Edinburgh.
I've looked.
Have you?
Yeah.
I mean, if
they're
you've got a
expensive.
car, you look outside Edinburgh then, you know, you're only 5, 10, 20 minutes away from lots of different places.
Mm.
What's your budget?
Well, I know. Cheap as possible. It's not just that, is it? Then you've got the meal, then I've got to get outfits to wear, and, you know, I'll see.
Okay. Well, you know, the offer's still there. When,
Yeah.
Amy or Ashley, up to you.
Yeah, I think it's going to be difficult for Amy at the minute because she's got the babies and
Yeah.
her other half works at the
Right.
weekend, so it's going to be finding childcare. She would love to, but it's just going to be probably
Yeah.
impossible at the minute
Yeah.
while you
Yeah.
work.
Okay. Well, listen, no pressure. We'll leave that one with you.
Yeah, okay.
All right. Well, listen. Thank you very much for coming on the call tonight. We'll catch up later, and I'll post this into the group later on tonight. Thank you.
All right,
Bye.
then.
Bye. 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 Bye.
Cheers, Gordon. See ya.
Cheers. Yeah. Bye. Bye.